Hi, this is Dan Lietha for Reasons for Hope, and today for our Friday cartooning lesson live, this is actually pre-recorded because right now I am at a Bible camp and I'm the speaker there. So last week I started this snapping turtle drawing, a so-called living fossil, and so I thought I'd take this drawing that I've already started, and some of you expressed interest in seeing me finish this drawing, so I'm gonna give it a go and see how it goes, and I'll just kind of chat away here as I'm inking on this. In fact, I'm gonna make this go back just a little bit, make this a little lighter, and then I'll ink over the top of it. Now this these inks are a bit, or the pencils, if you want to put it that way. The sketch that I made earlier is a bit loose, and usually when I ink, what I'm looking at is a bit tighter, meaning that the lines are more precise. And I was just sketching to get the drawing kind of underway. So this is a bit unplanned, but so this inking really is sort of a mixture of pencils and ink, where I'm sort of figuring out what the lines will be when that is usually largely done in the pencil stage. So so a bit of a experiment here, especially when you're recording something. And for those of you that haven't heard me talk about this before, I'm drawing my digital artwork here on a Wacom Cintiq. Oops. And that's a digital drawing tablet that the company Wacom makes. And there's a few companies that make these products, and Wacom is my favorite. Been using them for years and years and years. So getting the dark area inside the snapping turtle's mouth. And I've been cross-hatching for years. It's not something I do on too regular of a basis anymore, and I really should do more because it is a lot of fun. So I think we've got the inside of the turtle's mouth. I've got the reference on another screen that I'm looking at as so I'm not just kind of making this up out of my head. I'm actually looking at something. But again, the distance between rough, sketchy pencil lines and photo reference is a bit of a distance here. I'm not sure what the end result is going to look like. So one thing I wish I had mentioned in the previous video, if you're interested in that, you can go back and watch it, is that I was talking about snapping turtles and then alligator snapping turtles. So there's the family of snapping turtles, and the regular snapping turtles that we have around, they get pretty large. But the alligator snapping turtles are humongous, almost unbelievably huge. And I was a little shocked, actually, when I found out that they lived in the middle of the United States. In Kansas, you can find alligator snapping turtles. And I guess they bury themselves in mud, and they're very interesting creatures. So look them up and find out about those very interesting animals. It just seems like one of those critters that would be somewhere else than the United States, but nope, they're here, and you don't really hear about them too much. All right, the eyes on these things is, oops. One advantage of digital is that you can erase and start over. In fact, I've seen some artists that will make a line again and again and again and again. Just want to get it the right way. Some people like inking on a computer. I think it's pretty good. You gotta get the feel for it. But the people that don't like inking on a computer, or on a digital tablet, I should say, are those that have felt the magic of an actual brush when they're inking. And you can do some pretty cool things with a real ink brush. And again, for those of you that don't know, look at a comic book sometime, and you'll see artwork that has some very nice thick and thin lines. And those, sometimes there is a mixture of pens and brushes and things used. That was all a mystery to me when I was a kid, and so when I drew, imitated comic book characters and such, I would have to draw those lines, all the thick and thin aspects of those lines. I would start out drawing a line, and then I'd go back and forth and make that thick line, kind of construct it with my pen. Where the artist that uses a brush can just apply different amounts of pressure to the brush. Kind of like a calligraphy type of thing. And get that thick and thin, and it's kind of a language that the artist learns after a while. So here again, the shapes have not been clearly fleshed out for me. I mean, they're sort of there, but in some of the lines, but the shading, the shapes, the light source, and all that stuff all figured out. So I'm just kind of faking it here, hoping this will turn out. And again, there's that little tongue thing that the turtle has that it uses to attract fish and other things. That it's actually fishing. And if you've seen videos of snapping turtles that are doing that, the lightning speed of the reaction when that little fish hits that tongue, it's just blink and you miss it. It's that fast. I'm getting a little lost on some of this. I have to go back and do some outlines help me figure some things out. I'm going to go back and forth here from some of the areas and put some more shadow. On that part right there. And they've got this nice wrinkly, crinkly looking arm that's super crusty. Let me get some of these lines that reflect some of that texture. And for those of you that haven't worked with line artwork, give it a shot. It's fun. It'll stretch you. It is a lot of fun. When I was a kid, I used to have these, I want to say flare markers. They had one with a really thin tip on them. And I cross-hatched like crazy with those things. Made my parents gifts of art, made my mom a horse head picture that was all cross-hatched. It was pretty realistic looking. It wasn't cartoony at all. Kind of like a wildlife art type thing. And not sure if she still has it. I think she may. In fact, I'm pretty sure I saw it last time I was down at their place. Sad thing is, it's all faded though, because that marker is far from light fast. And the term light fast means an ink that's very stable and will hold up in sunlight. Or if you have an ink that will fade on you quickly, that's not very light fast. And again, it's kind of hard to stay in one area. There's so much lush detail on this snapping turtle. I'm not really capturing much of it, as I have to go sort of fast for the video. In fact, I didn't even keep track of when this thing started, so I'm gonna have to kind of calculate out a half hour or so. It's got this big kind of a fat fold right there, and then there's some little spiky bumps that comes off this. Now when I'm drawing lines, I like to follow the surface of the creature, and I'm not just drawing lines for the sake of drawing lines. I'm trying to communicate the shape of the surface. And so I'm imagining if there was a grid running all over this turtle, in which direction would the lines on that grid be going around? And that helps orient the shape. It helps give it more dimension in the mind of the viewer. Once you've got that idea down in your mind and you can practice it, you can take a drawing that looked pretty flat before, and turned it into something that looks very, very dimensional. So it's a lot of fun to draw. It's kind of a cracky texture on that part right there. Now let's get some more line work in up here. I went from cartooning lesson to this isn't very cartoony at all. So, but inking is a lot of fun. It's got these big kind of spiky bumps. It's almost like an armored tank. And then these ones right here kind of come out like the points of bullets. That was kind of like a little point there. Let me go back. Now again, if I had time to pull off some tighter pencils on this, then I could go in and do some inks that would be much cleaner and again more precise. But I'm just kind of going off the rough sketch here. And there's these wonderful ridges that each of these bumpy mountain type things on the back of the shell have. The lines, depending upon what you do with them, can be very descriptive. Thick and thin, and then adding a wobble or a wave, or okay, now the outline of these mountain spikes, I want to make those a little thicker, and then the detail lines that I'm putting in, I'm making those thinner. So right away to the eye, that communicates, okay, the shape of that spiky thing is that's the border of that outline of that shape versus just some detail on the inside. So your eye will read that easier if you've got the thick and thin lines operating in that way. And then you can make, if you've got in your mind, you've got it all settled out as to what or where the light source is coming from. And then sometimes I gauge the thickness of my lines according to that, because you figure out where the shadow would go, and so then you make lighter lines where there's more light, and thicker lines where there's more shadow. And again, that helps your eye to read. And make sense of the shapes. And I'm trying to figure out some of the shapes on this snapping turtle from the reference that I'm looking at. Make that dark back there. And then the thing about this cross-hatching and using lines like this, line artwork, is to keep practicing it. It's kind of like learning a language, and the more that you do this, the more your brain will give you solutions faster, and you'll just be able to talk this language in a sense. Easier and more fluid. Let's see. So keep practicing. For this summer, it would be good to find maybe some photographs of some animals or something, and then draw them, and then render them out in line artwork. And you may kind of be frustrated at the beginning of the summer and think, oh, I'm so bad, I can't do this. But keep going. And then by the end of the summer, take a look at the stuff that you did at the beginning of the summer compared to what you're doing right now. And you will see an improvement. And that's encouraging. So this guy's kind of coming along. And earlier I was kind of comparing digital versus, traditional inks. And I've seen some artists that are familiar with the traditional, which I don't think you can match with digital anyway, but I've seen some artists do some pretty wonderful things with digital that know what they're doing. And again, the thing with digital is that the terror of the commitment of putting ink on paper is not so bad, because you just mess something up. Oh no! Well, a simple Command Z on my Macintosh computer, my Apple computer, I can make that mistake go away, and on I go. So it's a wonderful learning tool. That back foot, it's got a lot of shadow to it because it's underneath a very, very dark place on the turtle. So I ink the sort of the side of the belly. I wish I could show you the reference that I'm using. I can't do that because it's copyrighted material, so I can make my own version of it, but I cannot display it on this video because I don't have the copyright right to it. And I would encourage those of you that are doing videos and working with artwork and such to get a handle on what copyright is, and the fact that it's on the internet does not mean that you have free access to it. And you don't want to turn around and find that you're being sued by some company or somebody, some artist, private individual, whatever, that owns the image. And copyrights and trademarks and all those sorts of things are very, very important to creative people, and they're important to companies too. So learn what those are, learn how to operate within the rules, and your life will be a lot easier. I suppose you could say, well, no, it's not, because it'd be easier if I could just take those images and do anything I wanted with them. Well, I guess there's a truth to that, but at the same time, think about, if you put some stuff up on the internet and somebody else starts taking your stuff, it goes both ways. So don't take what's not yours. Alright, well, that back foot's coming along. As you can see, this is taking a while, but it is fun. And after a while, your hand gains this muscle memory. And so some of the strokes that I'm making on here, like, go kind of fast, are ones that I'm familiar with, and my hand has done that, thousands and thousands of times. So I've mentioned this on my Draw It Know It's, I think, when I'm inking fur and that sort of thing. I've got a certain kind of stroke that I do for those parts of a drawing. If I'm doing an animal and there's long fur, or maybe even a person with hair, that my hand kind of falls into the hair texture mode and has a way of rendering that just kind of ready to go. So you gain these things after a while. So give yourself some time. Don't expect to be able to do them right away. And I think all I'm going to be able to do today is just do some inking, because there's so much detail on this turtle. I guess I can see why there's so many speed painting videos online, because when it comes down to it, artwork, as fascinating as it is for me, and I like watching people just draw normal speed. I think for a lot of people it's kind of boring, so it's just a lot of tedious type artwork, line work, or whatever you're doing sometimes. And I think your average person just doesn't have the appreciation for it. They just want the end result. Where a creative person wants to know the ins and outs of how does that little part, how does that work? How does the artist going to approach that? And so you're kind of working through it as the artist is drawing. And I find watching an artist draw, render and paint and all that sort of stuff, step by step, real speed, very, very educational and very inspirational. And so we're almost done here. Do the tail. Now the tail, if you watch the video that I made earlier, you'll know that this is not part of the reference that I that I was using because the turtle did not show the tail in the photograph. So I'm completely making this part up out of my head. I've seen snapping turtle tails before. So I hope it's, pretty close to true, but and again, that's just another artist thing. You start drawing, and you kind of gain a library of knowledge as you draw, and so the more that you draw certain things, the greater your ability to, well, kind of make things up. Or if you have to draw a certain thing, I've drawn one of those before, or I've drawn that many times before, and then you can not have to seek out reference so much. So there is the snapping turtle. Back off a little bit. Oop. All right. And if I can get my palette out of the way. There we go. There we go. So there's the inks for the snapping turtle. And why don't I go ahead and sign that? So there's the. In fact, let's shut off the sketchy layer just to give a clear picture of the inks. So that's rough inks. They're not real tight, but it was still fun and a good exercise. So I hope you appreciated that, and thanks for joining me on this pre-recorded Cartooning Lessons Live with Dan Lietha. And join us for more Reasons for Hope artwork and other Christian materials on Facebook and on YouTube and Instagram, and just look for Reasons for Hope and find the blue asterisks, and that'll be us. So thanks for watching.